Hi everyone, welcome. We are going to wait a few more minutes as people are still coming, and we will start in 2 minutes. 5:32. Thank you for your waiting. Hi everyone. Our webinar is starting. At the meantime, we love to know who is joining us tonight. So please take a minute to answer the poll, and we will get started shortly. All right, as the poll is still going, here's some light housekeeping. For tonight's panel, please submit any comments and replies to the pop-up questions in the chat. Submit questions you have for the speakers in the Q&A box. Hopefully, we will have some time to address them at the end of the session. And please don't use raise hand feature. We won't be able to see it. And lastly, you can click the closed captions button to enable the feature if you have the latest Zoom version. Thank you for joining us tonight of the topic of how to stand out in the college admission process. My name is Leslie. I'm the Northern California Office Director at Ingenious Prep, and I'll be also be the moderator for tonight's panel. We are very fortunate to have our experienced formal admission officer, Mary, joining us today, and I'll let Mary to introduce herself.
Thanks, Leslie. Sorry, I was on mute. Hello, everyone. My name is Mary. I'm a former admissions officer as well as an assistant director of candidacy building at Ingenious Prep. My background in admissions is at Harvard, Barnard, and Dickinson, as well as University of California, San Diego. And I have 2 degrees in education from Villanova and Harvard in both secondary and higher education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And we are also very special guest joining us today, Dr. I from SVU's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program at BigBang Artwork, who is also the co-host of tonight's webinar. Dr. I, could you introduce yourself as well as your programs to our audience?
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time at this weekend. A good time to join our webinar. I'm Dr. I sit at Silicon Valley, and I got my PhD degree in physical chemistry at Emory University, and used to work at IBM, like a high-tech field. But right now, I'm a entrepreneur and also design thinking advocate, and also Design Your Life certified coach. Yeah, I'll be happy to share a lot of things today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. I. So there's our agenda for today. I'll briefly introduce Ingenious Prep, who we are, what we do, and then Mary will take us into admission insights, specifically the 4 critical factors in standing out, and then we will discuss how to apply these lessons to our application. Dr. I will also share her opinions about the college admission. So there are some other people I'd like to get familiar with us as well. And then there will be our counselors. So we have a team of over 150 formal admission officers from top 30 universities all over the country. They work at Yale, MIT, Harvard, and so on, along with our graduate coaches who are the graduates from those top universities, which means they know exactly what it takes to become a student because they have done it themselves. So we also give our students access to over 75 professors, researchers, and scholars. Through our programs like mentorship program, students can have hands-on experience on the topics of their field of interest. So we build our program curriculum through objective insights from our formal admission officers. It's built using those school-specific insights from every top 30 universities to create our systematically and operational curriculum that we use to train and maintain our counseling team. Our approach works, let the data speaks for itself. In 2024, so far, our students have received 10.9 Ivy League, 131 top 10, and over 400 top 30 university offers, with 97 of our students admitted to at least one reach or target schools. Students who work with us are 7 times more likely to get into top 10 universities and 6 times more likely into top 30. Okay, without further ado, let's welcome Mary to guide us through admission insights. Mary, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Wonderful. So yes, I'm going to be covering 3 important components of the first half of this webinar. And first, I will be addressing admissions data and giving you a sense for how applications are processed. So true or false, Harvard's acceptance rate is 3.6. All things being equal, your chance of being admitted to Harvard is 3.6. So you're welcome to use the chat as a way to interact with some of these questions we have. This is false because this number fails to account for legacy admits, athletic recruits, underrepresented students, geographic diversity, and intended majors. So for traditional applicants, the acceptance rate is even lower. So again, the acceptance rate at Harvard is 3.6, but it doesn't take into account other components to, how admissions actually operates. So for every 100 students, this is another way of looking at it. For every 100 students admitted to Harvard, approximately 30 are legacy admits, another about 11 students are recruited athletes, about 36 students are from underrepresented backgrounds, 15 students are international, and then everyone else, it accounts for about 8% here. So that gives you, again, a kind of a good sense for what all of that means as we think about acceptance rates. So bottom line here is that if you're a non-legacy, a non-athlete, not from an underrepresented background, that is white, Indian, or Asian, and not an international student, you are part of a group of students that represents over 50% of the application pool. However, under 10% of the overall admitted students. This also doesn't account for what I had mentioned earlier, geographic preferences. This varies school to school and actually even annually. And this relates to institutions' kind of strategic goals. So for example, California has the largest number of college applicants by a wide margin. Conversely, applicants from Hawaii comprise over 1% of, but California has the largest number of college applicants by a wide margin, but they're only about 12% of the admitted students at schools like Harvard, Yale, MIT, et cetera. Conversely, applicants from Hawaii comprise only 1% of Harvard's admitted students, over 1% of Harvard's admitted students, despite comprising 0.3% of all high school graduates. So again, coming from a really distinctive, distant location like Hawaii is going to make an applicant more distinctive than a very large regional region like California. So across Ivy League schools, students from Connecticut, and this was a region I worked with, outnumber students from Illinois, even though Illinois has more than 4 times the number of graduates in some of the best public and private schools in the country. So again, another kind of interesting dynamic there was to consider geographic preferences. So this gives you, again, another visualization of specifically Harvard, but in this case, their geographic diversity. And again, I mentioned this earlier, students' intended area of study. More or less, this relates to some academic majors being more competitive than others, and thus being kind of more popular. So, for example, 18.5% of Harvard's latest admitted students intend to major in computer science or engineering, compared to the 28.2% in the social sciences. This also happens in other very, very popular schools, some of the top public schools like UCLA and Berkeley. So UCLA has an 8.6% right now acceptance rate. History majors had an astonishing 52% acceptance rate. Anthropology was 44%. Nursing, however, was 1%. So again, it's really dependent on, and also how you're evaluating your intended major. At Berkeley, another example of the acceptance rate for electrical engineering and computer sciences was less than 1/3 of its overall acceptance rate. So again, weighing kind of the super competitiveness of areas in STEM, majors in areas of STEM, versus some of the social sciences and humanities, and even sometimes the arts. Takeaway. So before you have even ever thought of applying, a lot of college admissions, the race will already have been run, right? So after eliminating the spots reserved for legacies, athletes, underrepresented students, students from smaller states and countries, and students with other intended majors, you're really only competing for a very small number of spots. I know this is not the positive note to start on, but we will get there. We will talk about good strategies. This is also to give you good insight into how applications are processed. So specifically, admissions officers will score applicants on some of the following categories. This includes academic achievement, inevitably the most important, extracurricular accomplishments. This is very important to US institutions specifically. This is versus Canadian schools or UK schools, for example, or Australian schools. Athletic prospects, personal qualities, and strength of high school support. So another trivia question, and again, you're welcome to use the chat as a way to respond to these. Approximately how many pages of applications did UCLA's admissions office read last year? And a hint, UCLA is one of the leading universities in terms of numbers of applications received. We got some people thinking none of the above. You're right. We're giving very specific numbers, so it's a good good guess if you were making a guess. Do you know how applications are reviewed in the admissions office? Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the most important part here. Last year, the UCLA admissions office read approximately 1.89 million pages of applications. And having worked with UCSD, UC San Diego, I can definitely contest to how intensive the review process is because of the volume of applications. So stepping into how applications are reviewed when they get to the admissions office. Okay, you click submit, right? Everything is done on your end. So the ball is in the court of the admissions officers. So the admissions office adds it to their pile of thousands of applications. The applications are often separated by region. So each admissions officer will get a pile of applications. We're in a digital age now. So I know the images are kind of depicting the sense of physical pages. Thankfully, they're no longer physical applications, they're files and folders. That admissions officer will then go through and review all the applications in their pile and select a handful that they want to accept. And then toward the end of application review, the admissions officers will come together in committee, and it's more than just one committee. There are various committees and they meet often, sometimes for weeks. It gets really fun, but and they debate who to admit, whose application will be denied, whose application will be deferred, waitlisted, etc. So the big takeaway, if you don't make an impression on an admissions officer assigned to your file, they will not be able to advocate for you. So as a result, you very likely will not be admitted, right? You really need to make an impact on that initial read. So let's jump into some good news, some good strategy. So 4 are the critical factors in standing out. How do you stand out? How do you make a great impression? Some important components here, and we'll step first into talking about threshold grades and scores, and this refers to the GPA and test scores. And then we'll kind of look at the rest of the application, which highlights important characteristics like leadership, diversity, and a consistent theme, or at Ingenious, we refer to this as the application persona. Threshold grades and test scores. What does this mean? Because test scores and GPA, they can vary, they look different at different schools. If you are able to meet the minimum requirement of, kind of average GPA or average test scores, admission becomes possible, right? I tell my students the door opens, right? If you don't have those threshold grades or threshold scores, the door remains closed. It's almost not worth, applying, right? Because they're looking for at least that minimum. So you can get a sense for here, and this is a lot of the data that we will articulate and relay to our own students and our counseling teams so that they have this awareness. So getting a sense for kind of the middle 50 percentile for SAT score, ACT score, and average GPA for some of these top schools. By the way, you'll see that some of the average GPAs, and because I'm in the middle of application counseling right now, I can very, very cognizant of the data here. Average GPA, some of these GPAs are weighted, some are not. So it's out of a 4.0 scale. So those that are weighted are going to be above 4.0, and the ones that are unweighted, like 3.9, that is an unweighted GPA, 3.9 out of 4 for Princeton. So testing policies for the top 30 universities. Again, this is important data that we share with our students. We both gather it we gather it, we analyze it, and then make sure that this information gets relayed to our counseling teams. So students, all students have this, kind of awareness of policies and threshold scores, threshold grades. So the last 4 years have seen tremendous changes to testing policies at top schools. Of course, this is in part as a result of the COVID pandemic and lockdown, when many schools went test optional. And now within the last about 1 to 2 years, schools have been changing that policy as COVID lockdown has ended. So while some schools remain test optional or test blind, referred to as test free. Many others are returning to requiring test scores. MIT was the first to return to that policy. So for top students aiming for top schools, we generally don't recommend, or excuse me, I'll make this positive. We strongly encourage students to take the SAT and or ACT. And that is, even if they end up applying to a test optional school, at least they've taken the test, right? Because again, we don't want to close the door too early to an institution by simply not having or not taking that test, regardless of whether your dream school is test optional or not. So great GPAs and test scores are not unique, right? They're enough. They will get you through the door, right? They will keep that door open, but they're not enough to guarantee admission. They're just only two of the many other important factors. Diversity and leadership, again, additional factors to standing out. Diversity is crucial. It's something that differentiates you from other applicants, especially those applicants from your region. So it's not just when I think a lot of times we consider diversity or we associate it with ethnic or racial diversity, and certainly that is important. Nevertheless, we're speaking of diversity in a broader sense today. So it's anything special that allows a student to contribute a unique perspective in the classroom, on campus, or as an alum. So diversity in this case, of course, is what will help you and make you stand out. So as I mentioned, things you cannot control: race, ethnicity, religion. But then there's other aspects in this context of admissions of diversity. So unique academic interests like marine biology, Russian literature, an unusual and uncommon extracurricular activity that might be starting a company or a nonprofit, a diverse background, maybe you're trilingual, multilingual, maybe you grew up in various different countries, some uncommon achievements like a patent holder. One of my students this year has a patent, an international prize winner, a published author. These are other ways, again, of demonstrating diversity. While these listed here on the right may be important accomplishments, the titles exist at every school, right? So being president of a school club, being captain of a sports team, being valedictorian. It's great to see, right? Some schools will expect to see this type of leadership, but you need to still be able to define yourself in a really unique way. So in this case, again, kind of alluding to leadership, it is crucial, as I mentioned, but you must have demonstrated proof of your leadership skills and your potential. Leadership in this context is your ability to impact people, projects, and communities. It's also a measurable difference of your involvement. So you can see as an example here, this is a snapshot, a screenshot of an activities list from the Common Application. You can see that when we have students talk about their activities on the Common Application, we strongly encourage them. We ask them to quantify their impact. So not just connect with seniors, but connect with 75 plus seniors, with 50 plus teens. We fundraised more than $6,000. So some examples of leadership, right? Managing people and projects, launching organizations, platforms, or certain projects, growing existing organizations or communities. Not examples of leadership would be just having that title or a certain position, not doing anything with it. Could be personal excellence or the length of an activity. Those are all important, but there's so much more that needs to be added to talking about leadership. Here's a great example, or to give you a sense for kind of, again, how leadership is evaluated. Here are two students. In this case, they're they are based on real students, but names, images are not accurate. So in this case, you have Aiden here on the left. He's a GPA of a 4.0, unweighted, ACT of 36, so perfect scores, perfect GPA. It attends a top boarding school, math competition winner, physics competition winner, robotics team captain, internship at a prestigious law firm, investment firm. He's a class prefect, National Merit Scholar, Presidential Service Award, and intends to be an engineer. So he's got everything going for him, right? Ben has a GPA of 97 out of 100. an ACT of a 35. So he still meets those threshold scores in that threshold GPA. So don't want to belittle him for not being perfect, right? He is definitely able to demonstrate his expertise. He attends a really strong public school. He plays piano, has participated with Juilliard's performing arts program. He's a published author in adolescent psychology. He's a music producer, creator of a music YouTube channel. He's a founder and volunteer performer for a senior an ensemble that performs at senior homes. He's a farmhand for the family farm. He's a server at weddings and events, and his plans are to be a researcher in music psychology. So this case, I think we make this kind of obvious, but who gets in and why? And again, you can use the chat if you want to participate. Right, the second, right. So in this case, yes, you're right. Is it Aiden? Oh, it's Ben, right? I want to make sure that I'm using his name correctly. It's Ben. Yeah. Ben, again, not his name, not the correct image of the student, but based on a real case that we've had. Ben got into Stanford, Columbia, Duke, and Cornell. Aiden didn't get into, these schools, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, and Penn. He did, however, apply to other schools. So these are just some of his results. In this case, again, as I mentioned previously, Ben met that, why did he get in? He met the threshold. So he didn't need to get perfect scores. He met the minimum requirement, right? Diversity. He has unique passions and achievements. Music producer, music YouTube channel, research, and published research in psychology. He has some real great leadership experience because he was the creator of many of his own activities, whereas Aiden was the head of many pre-existing clubs and activities. There was also a consistent theme. We call this, we'll talk about this in a moment, but we call this the application persona, this consistent theme, or sometimes I tell students it's like a personal brand. Ben is easy to remember and is outstanding in his area of focus. He had that great marriage of psychology and music. So if you go into the application persona, if the admissions committee is going to remember your application, they will need to summarize what distinguishes you in just a few words. So the application persona is this common thread that ties together your whole application. It's the organizing principle. It's, again, your application is so disparate. There's letters of recommendation, there are essays, there's the transcript, there's the test scores, all of those things, all those components. And the application persona make sure that your application is cohesive and coherent. And again, the application persona is not an accident. It's something that's decided. When we utilize it at Ingenious Prep, we go through a drafting process. The former admissions officer would be kind of presenting it to the student and, kind of going back and forth, is this accurate? Is this appropriate? Does this all make sense? But again, it's meant to be strategic. So it serves two purposes. Again, as I mentioned, kind of this, ensures that your application is cohesive and coherent, but it also ensures that it's memorable and that it's, really compelling. So here's some examples. A multilingual public health campaigner bringing science and culture together. A relentless intellectual committed to creating sustainable cities across the United States through engineering, architecture, and environmentalism. A talented and recognized coder using computer science to assist people with disabilities. So as I mentioned earlier, I think our students really love this idea, but it's the application persona is your personal brand. It's a snapshot of who the student is at this time in their life within the context of college applications. So, if it is a brand, you might be able to create a fantastic product, but unless it has strong branding, right, it's going to, it will otherwise, struggle to attract customers. So just like how successful companies have a strong brand like Nike, BMW, Apple, a successful applicant also needs to have a strong application persona. So application personas can take one of two approaches. They can be highly specific, or they can be interdisciplinary. So highly specific would be shows one very clear interest supported by detailed experience and deep knowledge. So a botanist committed to rebuilding endangered flora of Mongolia. Or it can be interdisciplinary, so kind of combining two interests to kind of bring together this kind of really creative and cool intersection that helps the student, again, kind of develop and demonstrate a unique perspective. So a trendy engineer aiming to apply chemical principles for more environmentally friendly fashion. Again, here's one snapshot. The application persona for this one student was an accomplished poet with academic passion to examine identity through language and economics. So kind of an interdisciplinary one. You can see an example or a snapshot of their activities list. You can see some leadership there, some of their awards. You can see, that they founded a really interesting magazine. They were a poet and creative nonfiction writer, an editor-in-chief of the school newspaper, and their future plans are to be a writer or journalist with a doctorate degree. And so this student, in this case, was admitted to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. So the last piece that I'm going to touch on in our webinar today, taking these 4 criticals and standing out and applying these lessons to a real application. So the activities section of the Common App. Goals for students, leadership, tangible achievements, sustained involvement and connection through the application persona. This is, again, getting pretty detailed, but this is really, again, this is kind of how we dig into our work with our students and being very strategic. So what does the activities list cover? You have the student's title and position. We're just looking at the top activity there. Thinking about the student's title and position, the organizational name, the 150 character description, the hours per week, weeks per year that the student participates, whether they intend to participate in college, the timing, when during the year do they participate in this activity, and then what grades, when were they participating, in what grades were they participating. So how does this activities list, this particular activity snapshot, achieve our 4 goals, right? We have sustained involvement. The longer, more intense commitment, the better, right? Another point here, tangible achievements, right? Numbers and results help quantify the student's impact and demonstrate, demonstrate, again, impact, right? So you can see grew membership 500% from 10 to 50. So again, some quantifiers in that description. Being really specific about frequency also helps admissions officers get a really good understanding of how the student is engaging in the activity. So weekly meetings, this is again demonstrating, okay, the student is really committed, really involved in this activity. You see the leadership position right there, the co-head of Habitat for Humanity Club, right? Strength. So starting all descriptions with strong action verbs, I say this to all of my students, you have to pay attention to tense. So if an activity is over, you need to use the past tense. If the student is still engaged, it needs to be the present tense. But this is the first time for many students to write something that's akin to a resume. So the active verb piece is really critical and something that they're not as familiar with. Most students, their initial draft of one of their activities descriptions tends to be very long and just long sentences. So again, we kind of break that all up, start every phrase with a strong active verb, right? Excellent. The personal statement. So the personal statement, its purpose is to show who you are, show what makes you unique, show your personality and your personal qualities, show how the pieces of your application fit together, right? This is about that cohesion. And in the end, and I use this phrase all the time, show, don't tell. A lot of students are very familiar at this stage of their high school education. They're very familiar with analytical writing or writing reports. So they're very kind of upfront, very concrete. The personal statement is oftentimes the very first time that they've jumped into reflective writing. It's one reason why at Ingenious we offer a reflective writing course to help students lean into this new experience in writing. But it's also a little bit more creative. They're talking about themselves. This feels awkward. This feels strange to them. So we spend a lot of time working through the personal statement. So how are your personal qualities actually evaluated? Um, as I mentioned at the very beginning of my portion of the webinar, students are scored, right? So, and this is very, very, very common at most schools. So getting a sense for, kind of how, in this case, students are evaluated according to their personal qualities. So what personal qualities are actually evaluated? There's integrity, helpfulness, courage, kindness, grit, leadership, sensitivity, humor, all of these components. I mean, if you're not a funny person, that's okay. There are other personal qualities that can erupt, that can come up, come from and be evoked by the application, especially through this personal statement. But these are words that come to mind, right? These are personal qualities. These are aspects of who you are, your values, what you believe, how you perceive yourself and others, how you get involved in the community, how you perceive the world. Those personal qualities come through the personal statement. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to hand it back over to Leslie so she can wrap up our portion. Thank you so much.
Thank you for Mary's sharing. Now we welcome Dr. I to share her professional points on entrepreneurship programs.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Mary. A lot of information I'm still processing. So thank you for sharing. Okay, could you stop sharing screen so that I can have my PowerPoint? Okay, so let me have some interaction with our audience. So right now I'm sitting at San Jose, so around like Silicon Valley. So where you are, you can type in your current location, San Jose or some other place, or see where you are. So as a human being, I'm like a parent of two kids. But also from the Mary's presentation, I just say, oh, wow, admission officer really work a big load, right? And as a human being, I think you guys try your best to figure out the real person behind the application. Yeah, not just the number, not just like a title or achievement, right? Because you're trying to figure out who they are. So I think we all have the same goal. We want to find the best match. So as a parent, as an educator, and I was a student like many years ago. So I would say we want to just be ourselves, right? Be passionate about something. And then the university, especially different university, they have different maybe focus. They have different culture environment, and they want to find the fit student. So, okay. First of all, who am I? Oh, okay. Thank you for a couple response. Los Angeles and Charlotte. Okay. I used to live at Atlanta. Thank you for response. So I want to talk about a little bit about me, and also about passion and meaning, and how follow Mary's topic to be diversity and show leadership, and also show personal how. And then we actually at Silicon Valley, we have some vehicle. Okay, so about me, I mentioned early, I got my education in China, so I moved to United States for graduate school. I got a PhD degree in physical chemistry at Emory University, Atlanta. And then I did my postdoc at a national lab and moved to Silicon Valley to work at IBM. But later I found it's not my passion. After half of my life, I found, oh, okay, doing that research probably it's not my passion, means I can do a good work, I can make a good money, But if it's not my passion, at a certain point, when working on sometimes project getting harder and harder, I cannot just hang there. So I say, why I'm wasting my life? So then I quit my IBM job and became an entrepreneur. And through like past like 15 years, I found my passion. And my passion is to be an educator and use design thinking, design your life, all those kind of tools to help people find their passion, right? So then I also, during the COVID year, I became a full-time teacher at a local private school. So I taught middle schoolers math and also a bunch of elective like innovation entrepreneurship, design thinking, design your life, all kinds of different electives. And at the same time, I'm a mom. I have two kids. So the older one graduated from high school 3 years ago. They are transgender, and they were admitted by a couple of liberal arts college, but they think, oh, okay, I decide I wanted to find going to the full-time the college as a full-time student is not my path. I want to just explore myself. So then my older one decided to just work on their own. Eventually, they figure out their passion. They want to be an artist. Now they're working as a freelancer, build their own catalog, their own portfolio, and even their own like a business model. So it's totally different. And then my second one graduated from high school last year. And finally, he admitted to UCSB. So you can see my T-shirt. I'm a happy UCSB mom. But I think for kids, of course, as a parent, we want them to go to Ivy League, go to top university. But at the same time, we want them to be themselves and also do things they love to do, right? So let's go to my second topic, the passion and the meaning. And we at Silicon Valley, quite often we have a lot of programs. One program, we just interview a lot of college students, and it was interesting. So one, our like a middle school, high school student, we went to like a Stanford campus, interview their current students, and they asked them a lot of questions about the college life, and also ask how can we get into Stanford. And mostly they mention just be yourself and find your passion. Do things you love. You don't want to go to the top university for the sake of going to the top university. You want to think, okay, that's a good match. That's where I can spend my like a 4 year of college over there, and that university can be part of my life, help me to be the person I want to be. So now the question is, how do I find my passion? That's the first thing. And also another thing I mentioned here is the meaning, because find the meaning not only for teens, not only for young kids, also for adults is very important. Because if we do anything, you need to work hard, right? For example, do research. For example, I set up some organization to publish a book, to work on some magazine. It takes a lot of time. If it's not a passion, then why I try to do that, right? I still remember when my two kids, when they apply for college, they need to work on their essay. That journey sometimes could be painful, but in a good way, because there are a lot of reflection about the past life, even though past life is not that long, right? So they're still thinking the things they've done and the meaning and where they are going to go. They want to go, beyond college. So they think there are a lot of thinking, a lot of reflection. And this is a very good journey, I would put it that way. So after the application process, seems they all of a sudden they grew older. They are pretty, they are more mature, I'll put it that way. So then find the passion and find the meaning. Like a meaning could be a big about the whole life, or could be a small, why I'm doing this, like SAT test. If you give it a meaning, then it's not just a test, right? So then how do we find the passion and the meaning? It's not easy, just say it. Or how do we show our identity and leadership? So, that's why I asked you guys where are you located right now? For example, we see LA, we see some from North Carolina, and maybe some other different location. So we are at Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is the place for like innovation, for innovator and entrepreneurs. So at here, probably everybody, gets a dream to change the world. I always tell my student, I don't know you, but I do have a dream to change the world. And if you have that dream, you can definitely try. And we don't need to worry about the result, final result, right? We can just try. So that's why, how do we find the passion? And it's hard just say it. You just tell your kids, so go find your passion. No, they don't know how to do. So we can borrow some, like a vehicle, we call the project-based learning. So in this way, through the project, we can integrate things like knowledge, like academic skills, and also soft skills together. And the most important thing, it make impact by solving the real world problem. And the real world problem is relevant. In this way, kids just love to do it, And also we can explore the interest, because this interest not just say, okay, I'm good at drawing, I'm good at thinking, I'm good at singing, or I'm good at dancing or something. It's just we integrate the design thinking and like AI technology and others technology together for innovation. And also through the project, we can build the leadership and the teamwork. And also we learn from each other, probably by peers and also by real entrepreneurs at Silicon Valley. So this vehicle is like a very interesting, very fun. And I found actually a lot of students, they want to do it, right? So, okay, I'll show you next. So through this project, as a good example, we call it AI Innovation and Design Thinking Project. So, as AI, you don't have to be tech savvy. As long as you understand, as long as you know as a new tool, as a new skill, you use it to solve the problem. I see quite often as a student, as a teacher, probably they're afraid of ChatGPT. I say, no, nobody use ChatGPT in my class. I say, no, we cannot restrict our students from the future technology. So then I have an elective called Build on Top of ChatGPT. How about we use ChatGPT and build good stuff, right? Use it, right? And so through the project, we'll let students learn about new technology. And design thinking actually is like a innovative methodology, especially promoted by Stanford. And I think Harvard and MIT, they all, design thinking is a buzzword. Why? Because a lot of big companies like Google, like IBM, where I worked before, and Microsoft and Meta, so all the high-tech company, when they solve problem, they use design thinking. So then through our project, we teach students this methodology for innovation. And then they learn how to do empathy, how to do brainstorming, how to prototype their product. It's like a hands-on activity, and also we use local incubators and the local university campus. So in this way, our student can interact with real entrepreneurs at Silicon Valley and talk to them and understand them and even see how they turn their dream into a real, change the world, right? And by the end of the project, we're going to have a presentation. We pitch to the VC, pitch their ideas and represent, I get feedback. And so like some past project, we offer like a frame, like a structure. We guide students through the project, but they choose the thing they're interested. Like some of our previous students maybe focus on how to use AI to help to be a tutor, help those like low income groups. Or sometimes we do we help a fatal disease group, like young kids, they got this disease called DMD, and then they couldn't walk. They had to use a wheelchair, and sometimes those kids couldn't go to school. And we develop like a program, like a study portal or like a community to help those kids. So through those projects, our students learn about the real world and like the real world challenge. They see other people need help, and then they're very happy to help those people. So I would say it's a good vehicle for students to use their all the knowledge and skills, but also know they can build something, impact the society, help others, and they're very happy, very proud when they think they can help. Okay. Okay. And since we are at Silicon Valley, we have a lot of good instructors. So for this program, you also, besides me, I'm one of the instructor. We also have Daniel, who is the colleague friend of Steve Jobs, is one of the first employees at Apple, and will work with Mr. Hugh, who was the partner and a former VP at IBM HP, but right now he is a very good educator. And we have a lot of guests and like here a secret instructor. So basically you learn from people in the industry or in the real like a startup company. And since we're going to use like local incubator, then they can learn from the entrepreneurs and also build a good network. And even they get chance to do intern at the incubator or those startup companies. And of course, for those outstanding students, they'll get a recommendation letter. Well, that's pretty unique. But I think the point is through this project or this type of project, the students not only can just do a project, and they learn like those technology and also design thinking. Those are really hot at Silicon Valley. And also since it's the innovative way to solve the problem, to solve the like a challenge for the society or even for the whole human being. I think in this way, students can see, they can really make difference. So that's very important. And also they collaborate with the like-minded peers and professionals. And then they get a chance to see, oh, if I have a dream to change the world, what I can do. In this way, they can build a higher goal, not only just for themselves, but for community and the society. Okay. And also, doing design thinking is my passion. It's super fun. I believe it will be a new way of learning. Basically, the student will be centered of the project. They decide what to do, what they want to do, what they want to change. For example, once we have a group student, when we talk about the challenge in school, they all talk about bullying. So they say, hey, how can we do something to change or to help people get bullied? So then we brainstorm, we talk about that. Well, by the end of the day, probably we found it's hard to really change the whole situation. But at least we think about this and see what we can do. So here I strongly encourage, especially for those people, if you are not at Silicon Valley, you can think about it, because through this project, you can your kids can show the diversity and can show the leadership and can show who they are, especially when they solve the real problem, when they through those real projects to show, oh, okay, I think this group is underrepresented. Oh, this group I can use my expertise to help them. So in this way, can show their value. And this real is tangible. Okay. So I think, again, as a parent or as an educator and as a student, as a old students, I really want our current students or our kids, they get chance to explore their passion. It's okay they make mistake. It's okay they think, oh, okay, I tried this and I found out it's not my way. That's totally fine. And we call it, a good exploration experience. So we want to help our students to explore themselves, to find their passion, and also through finding passion, making impact to stand out, and then eventually to show who they are, and then find a good match of school. I want our students really enjoy their life at the college. I don't want them to suffer. Oh, why I come here? I don't belong here. I think that's the same goal for us, as a parents, educator, and admission officer. We all want to find a good match. We all want to our student, enjoy their life. But yeah, that's what I told my younger kid. I say, go to college. You don't have to work super hard on academic. You just try different things, because it's a period of time in your life. You're away from your parents. You're semi-independent. You don't need to worry too much about where to live, what to eat. I'll take care. But also at the same time, you're independent. You decide what you want to do with your time, right? So it's a good time to do a good exploration. But before that, in college, in high school, you're still a kid with your parents, right? So, our goal is to try to help kids, try to help students. They're in middle school or high school. They get a chance to try different things and explore and find their passion if possible. Okay, I think that's all I want to cover right now. So we're open to the Q&A session. Leslie, back to you.
Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, Mary and Dr. I, for the presentation. I hope you all have the information helpful and learn the importance of building your application persona and learning the leadership program, learning the entrepreneurial programs. Okay, so Mary, can you come back to our PowerPoint, and then we can introduce some admission data to the parents and our students. Okay, so just like I said before, in 2024, Ingenious Prep got incredible admission results when students get admitted by the top 30 universities. I know there are a lot of, so you can see here the We got a lot of offers from the ranking top 30 students, universities. Okay, so I know there's a lot of information. Now we are going to do a quick poll, and yeah. So if you're interested in talking to an expert to diagnose your profile application through a free one-on-one consultation, or if you want to learn more about our programs, please click yes and we will contact you afterwards. In the meantime, we'll answer some of the questions in the chat. So you can, if you have any questions, you can ask here in the chat. Yes, we will share the recording tomorrow. Okay. So that concludes my session today. We'll be sending out our recording tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good night. Thank you, Dr. Xing Ai, and thank you, Mary.
Thank you all. Thank you, Leslie.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.